What's up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Zoe Cavey and I make a new video every week, usually related to home, lifestyle, beauty, hair, that kind of thing. Today's video is going to be completely different, something that I haven't done before, mainly because I am not very good at it, but this is a story that I think is worth telling. I get asked about it all the time, so I figured now would be a good time to sit down and attempt to tell you guys this story. If you're new here, you may not know, or you will not know, that I was in a long-distance relationship for a little bit over 5 years actually. Back in the day, I feel like it was a bigger deal to have been doing that for that long, but I feel like long-distance relationships have become more and more common since then, so it's not as surprising to people, which is really cool. It was tough for me and my husband back then when we were dealing with it, and everyone just thought we were batshit crazy. I've tried to film this video before like 3 times and I get sidetracked, it goes too long, there's like a myriad of problems, so from experience I'm just going to try and simplify this right now. So my husband's name is Logan. We actually met online. We started talking on Facebook back in 2010. That is when I found him. So the question I get all the time is, how did I find him on Facebook? And I always have to clarify with people because I don't want people thinking that I was on Facebook looking for guys. Like, I wasn't on there purposely, like using it like Match.com. Like, I was only 15 years old. That being said, this next part of the story kind of contradicts that and sounds confusing, but I hope that you just understand it for what it is. So one day towards the end of 2010, I had my friend over at my house. We were scene queens back in the day. We had the big hair, the Hello Kitty, the tutu skirts, like we went to town on it. So with that being that, we were very interested in scene guys, which basically meant that you had the hair and the tight pants, maybe a lip ring, that kind of thing. And coming from Melbourne, Australia, specifically the town or the area that we were kind of living in, scene I feel like wasn't as big a deal there as it was in America, so we didn't really see a lot of scene guys walking around or anything. It was really rare. And being the 15-year-old little pervs that we were, and we just wanted to like perv on guys, I guess, look at their pictures, you know, that kind of thing. It sounds weird, but that's what it was. So the day that she came over, we decided to make this game where we went on one of our Facebook friends' profiles where it shows like the 9 people or whatever it shows for like the preview of their friends. We would find the most attractive person, like if they were seen, we would pick that person through their friends, and then we'd go through their friends, and then through their friends, and their friends, and we just kept going. And I think the aim of that game was to find, or hopefully find, like attractive scene guys, which was very unlikely. I don't know what the theory behind that was. We were just looking for some kind of eye candy on a Sunday afternoon or something like that, so filled up the time. And then I guess one thing led to another, and we ended up finding Logan's profile and his friend Cameron's profile. I guess one through the other. If I can find, well, I won't find his friend's picture because that's creepy and I know that guy. Logan's picture was this one right here. In this picture, he is 13 years old. Anyway, you can see the hair, you can see the teeth, like we were into it. So we found him and his friend, and I decided to add Logan, and my friend decided to add his friend Cameron. Now back in 2010, being accepted on Facebook wasn't that big a deal. Like, you pretty much accepted anyone that sent you a friend request. Like, it was like MySpace, you just kind of racked up numbers of friends and you didn't necessarily have to know the person. So I didn't think anything of it. I don't think he thought anything of it. My friend went home, we forgot about it, like it really wasn't that deep. But I think later that day, Logan messaged me and said, hi, you know, where are you from? What's your name? How old are you? Well, not what's your name, he's not stupid. You know, he was just basically chatting with me, trying to figure out who I was. So that was cute. We did that for a little bit. One thing I do remember from that conversation, like there's 2 weird parts of this. The first thing was that he asked me where I was from. I said Melbourne. I did not say Melbourne, Australia, because at that point, I don't think I was aware that he was from America. And even if he was, I didn't know that there was another Melbourne. So if you don't know, there's a Melbourne in Florida and there's a Melbourne in Victoria, Australia. So it was just a complete fluke that I found a guy in a state that had the same name as where I lived. Like, So I said Melbourne, he didn't think anything of it. And then I was like, okay, where are you from? And he said Brandon. And my first initial thought was, is something wrong with this kid? I didn't ask for your name, I asked for where you're from. Like, I just didn't think that Brandon was a place. I thought he was like just giving me a name. I was like, okay. Like, I still to this day remember being vividly confused after he said that, but I just moved past it because he was hot and I was excited that he was talking to me, so I was just like, whatever. So we went on talking for like an hour or something that day, and then I guess the conversation got to some other topic where it really pointed out that I wasn't living there, that I was in Australia, so we both figured out the distance, and he was like, oh, I didn't know that, and was kind of spooked. So he just ended up going to bed, he said goodnight or whatever, and that was it. And I remember while I was talking to him, texting my friend, be like, that hot guy we added actually messaged me back, oh my gosh. So like, it was a really exciting moment for me, I guess, because I just thought he was the hottest guy on the planet. I still do, but it was just like insane back then. But after that night, he didn't talk to me again, I didn't talk to him. I wasn't that into it, like I wasn't invested at that point. We'd had one conversation, so I wasn't like crying about it or anything, I completely forgot. So months went by, we didn't talk, it got to be the end of the year, I still hadn't said anything to him. Every time I posted a picture, he would like it, or if he had a status up, I would like his status just because I wanted my name to keep like popping up for him. Like I didn't want to just completely disappear. I don't know why. There wasn't any deep thought in that, but I guess that theory kind of panned out because we went through to the end of that year without having said anything to each other. And then the very first day, the morning after my New Year's Eve in 2011, he messaged me, and like he picked up right where we left off like 4 months ago. He was just like, hey, how are you? Like he was being super nice, super flirty. He was never trying to like just be friends with me, and I wasn't just trying to be friends with him. Like we knew we liked each other from the jump. After that, we just never stopped texting. He went to bed that day, and then as soon as he woke up, he messaged me again and again and again, and we were just texting non-stop. If I didn't reply quick enough, he would be like, oh, where are you at? Like, you know, we were having like these really long, infinite conversations on text. It did get to feel like we were dating after a long amount of time. I would say constantly talking to someone for 2 or 3 weeks. It very much felt like dating, especially what we were talking about and all that kind of stuff. And then I think about after a month, I was in the bathroom and I just got out of the shower, but I still had my phone because I had to have a shower as quick as I could so I could keep texting him. We were insane, I promise you. But I got out of the shower and there was a message that said, hey, period, I love you, period. And that was like, it wouldn't have been a big deal to me, but he was American, so I was always trying to kind of adapt ahead of time so that we were on the same page culturally, because there were plenty of occasions when I didn't get what he was saying, he didn't get what I was saying. Like by this point, I think we'd talked on the phone once, and I was very quiet on the phone. I am in real life, I don't talk very much, and he was talking a lot. But anytime I would say something, whether it was my accent or what I was saying, like there was like a little bit of an awkward pause because we didn't quite understand what the other person was saying. I feel like with me, it was a little easier for me to understand him because I had movies and we're just extremely exposed to American culture, whereas Americans view us as like Crocodile Dundee, Steve Irwin, British people. Like they really just don't have a great grasp on Australian culture. So there was definitely quite a few awkward times, but we pushed through. He would just laugh or I would have to explain it to him and vice versa, and it never became a problem. If anything, we just got to learn more about each other's cultures. Anyway, back to him saying I love you. So I assumed from movies that when someone says I love you for the first time, it's a super big deal. Basing this off Gilmore Girls and basically any high school movie ever. And so for it to come from someone who had only been talking to me for a few weeks at that point and had never met me in person or spoken to me on video or anything, I just kind of had the snap reaction of, I think I said along the lines of, whoa, isn't that a big deal? Which thinking back on it now was not the right response, but that's what I said, and he was very sad about it. I could just tell, you know, the texting got quiet, and then he was just like, okay, I'm just gonna go to sleep. And I was like, oh my god, I didn't mean like that I didn't, like I do, it's just I thought that's what I was supposed to say. I don't know, it was like a classic movie like oops moment. Even back then I didn't think of it as that big a deal because by the next morning we'd moved on. Like I said I love you too because I did. So moving on from that, we still weren't dating, we were just talking constantly, and that went through till March. It was the middle of the day, I was sitting in my living room, he was out with friends or something, so he asked me to go out with him or be his girlfriend or something over Facebook because that was the only way we could do it. He asked me to go out with him or be his girlfriend or something, and I of course said yes, and then we exchanged mushy texts even more so than regularly for about 24 hours straight. So yeah, March 13th is when we technically started dating. We became Facebook official and everything. And then for the remainder of that year, which was 2011, that's what I call my rebellious year. So I spent majority, if not all of 2011, begging my parents to let me go to America either on my own or have someone escort me. Like I was reaching out to relatives that I hadn't met since I was like 3. I was like, can anybody help me? Can anybody take me there? Like I'm going to pay for myself. I just need someone to go with me because at that stage, I had only just turned 16 in February of that year and my husband was only 14 years old. So yes, that sounds creepy. We are 1.5 years apart. Definitely skeeved me out back in the day, but now it's more normal. But yeah, that whole year was a constant battle with my parents, just saying, someone take me to America. I literally wrote an essay about why someone should take me to America. Like it was ridiculous. But after a year and 5 months of begging, I finally convinced someone. I think they got the picture that if it had lasted that long, I was serious about it. At that point, I was 17 years old. So in 2012, in May, I had convinced my mom and her boyfriend to take a vacation to Tampa, Florida, which they obviously saw through. That was complete bullshit. They knew about Logan. They didn't know we were dating, but they knew, like I knew him. Like my mom had talked to him on the phone. My mom talked to his mom on the phone. Like she was not dumb, but I never admit that's why I was going. I've also never admit this verbally, but half the reason I didn't want to tell anyone I was going for him was in case he did turn out to be like an old man, or maybe he was him and he was standing me up. I remember thinking, but what if this is a joke? And then I would think, but who jokes like this and takes up so much time for like 8 months to prank someone, to get them to go that far and then just not show up? Like that's insane. Now, if you don't know a lot about MTV's Catfish, all of this happened before that show was even made. I know that because I actually applied to be on Catfish for their very first season. I sent the email in, but they did not accept international people. But the reason I bring up Catfish is because we didn't really know like the big red flags for like someone being fake. Like my husband would never webcam with me. I had talked to him on the phone, but never webcam. And when I'd ask him, you know, do you want a video chat? He would say, my computer's camera's broken, or my computer doesn't even have a camera, or just like dumb stuff like that. I think I only asked about 3 times, but the only reason I didn't push for it or see something weird in it is because I was only asking because, I mean, I did want to see him, but at the same time, I just assumed it was going to be awkward as hell, and like I try and avoid those situations like the plague. So I was asking, but at the same time kind of relieved when he said no. So basically, I was dating this kid for that long, making plans and everything, and there was every red flag in the book kind of pointing towards him being like an old man that was going to snatch me. The only thing that I knew in myself why it was really him was that on his Facebook he had like 700 friends or something, and they were all his schoolmates, and they would message him on Facebook, and his family was on there, and he would upload pictures. So like it was an active profile with active people tagging him and stuff. I'd seen people like post videos with him, so like I knew that he was him. But even with all that, I wouldn't suggest doing what I did and flying to go see someone across the world when you're that young and you haven't seen them on video chat. Like video chat is like the line. But nevertheless, I ended up going. When we did the flight, we went to LA first and then from LA to Florida, but our flight got delayed when we got to LA, so we had to stay there overnight. I should mention that the year that we were dating in 2011, before I was able to go, There were a bunch of times when I would just be telling him, you know, I'm coming this date, I'm coming June, then I'm coming July, then I'm coming October. Like, I constantly was telling him that I was going to be there, and then just pushing it back because my parents just weren't agreeing with me and I was constantly fighting with him. So I was telling him, I'm coming, I'm coming, I'm coming, just to kind of keep him. And in my head, I did really think I was gonna crack my parents, which eventually I did, but it ended up taking a lot longer. But then when we got delayed in LA, and I had to tell him, oops, we got delayed, I won't be there. Like, I feel like he thought I was lying again, which was completely understandable because I'd said it so many times. But then I started like posting pictures on Facebook and he knew I was actually in LA.
Hi, so I'm in LA right now. It's so freaking cool, except it's raining outside. This is the view, this is the hotel I'm at, and the airport. Okay, well, I'm having fun. I'm going to go.
And then the second worst thing that happened was that the next day, when we left LA to go to Florida in one trip, I told him I was gonna be there at like 6 p.m. or 7 p.m., but for whatever reason, I got the times wrong because I wasn't aware that like there's a time difference between LA and Florida. Like, that just didn't occur to me. So I was like, yeah, I'll see you at 6 p.m, you know, don't make plans or anything, and you know, I'll get to see you. So when I got to LA, it ended up being like 11 o'clock at night. As soon as I got to the hotel and I connected my computer to the Wi-Fi, like, there weren't too many messages, but like, it broke my heart and like made me panic reading them because I just felt so bad that he thought that I stood him up. Like, that's just awful. I would never want to stand anyone up. I don't want to be stood up, like, ever. So I felt really bad, but I messaged him straight away. I was like, oh my god, I'm sorry, I'm stupid, I didn't realize that the times were different. And then he messaged me back straight away. He was like, oh, okay, and then seemed okay with it. But at that point, it was like 11:30 at night. My mom and her boyfriend ended up leaving the hotel for a little bit to go get some food and bring it back. And during that time, I asked him to come over so that we could meet for the first time because that was what the hype was about. So he said yes. He got his stepbrother, his sister, and his sister's friend. They all came and dropped him at the hotel because he still wasn't old enough to drive himself. And like, this is the climactic moment that I feel like I never describe as dramatic as it was or like as touchy-feely as it was. But this is like any long distance video you've ever watched where like, you know, it's a guy and a girl at an airport and she like runs up to him or whatever. Like, this was that moment. But he got to the hotel. We were both still very unsure if the other person was going to be a serial killer, so it was nerve-wracking for a whole other bunch of reasons. So he messaged me that he got to the hotel, that he was inside, and he was like, what room are you? I didn't want to tell him what room I was in because like in my head I was making a backup plan of like, what if this guy's gonna kill me? Like, I don't want him to know where my room is, even though he would have seen me anyway. I don't know, I was just trying to be precautious at the time. But I told him, hey, I'm on the 3rd floor, turn left when you get up there and I will find you. I'm pretty sure that scared him as well because it sounds like a dodgy thing to say, like he's gonna get stolen. Like, it was just very sketchy. This hotel was like a big rectangle, so the elevator was like right in here and then my room was down in the corner, so I was just like, turn and go down the hallway and I will find you. And this was the moment that I never explained well enough, but I peeped around the corner and I saw it wasn't an old man, it was this skinny little kid with glasses on. He looked exactly like I thought he was going to, and like, I've never been so rattled and excited about a complete stranger my entire life. Like, if you've been in a long distance relationship and you've had this moment, big or small, you'll get what I mean when it's such a strange feeling to be so attached and connected and like in love with someone, but their physical being like a stranger. It was just bizarre. Like, I remember it feeling so weird to run up and hug someone that through my eyes in real life looked like a stranger. But we had that magical moment. He was walking down the hallway looking at his phone, looking all nervous, and I was nervous too, but I turned the corner, I realized it was him. I ran up to him, we hugged, we had the moment, and that was how I met my husband for the first time. Now, I will say when we did meet in the middle of the hallway, we didn't kiss because I feel like that was just a little too much for me at the time. Like I didn't want to rush into that. My parents were back by then and I wanted him to meet them, and also they didn't know why I had just run out of the room. So I had to explain to them where I went. So I turned around and I was like, come with me, and we were walking, and then when we got kind of close to the door, he kind of grabbed my hand from like behind me and like stopped. So I kind of like whipped around and then he kissed me. So that was our first kiss in the hallway of the Embassy Suites Hotel. Last year for our anniversary, he actually took me back to that hotel and we were able to get a room that was a couple doors down from the room that I was in, but when he booked it, he didn't realize that the room that we picked for our anniversary was the door that we had our first kiss in front of. So I remembered as soon as I got there and I was like, whoa, cool. I really wish I was better at telling stories because I feel like this one should be more romantic than I'm like making out. I'm just not like that. I don't know. But yeah, that was the first time meeting my husband. I stayed there for another 2 weeks and then I went home. After we'd met in person, he completely got over the webcam thing and we were Skyping all the time. So the next few years of our relationship definitely got easier. In fact, it got to the point where Skype was permanently open. So I had a laptop and he had a computer. Not only does he have a computer, but as I've mentioned before, my husband plays games a lot, World of Warcraft specifically. So him having a webcam on his computer made it super easy to like talk all the time. I would keep my laptop open with me, so we just had a non-stop Skype call running like literally all the time. The only time it hung up is if my laptop accidentally died or it dropped out of internet or something. Like we were constantly on a call. Now when I say that, I don't mean that we were constantly like having a conversation, especially seeing as the time difference from Florida to Australia is huge. So he would fall asleep in the middle of my afternoon, and then when he woke up, I would end up falling asleep pretty late in my nighttime because that was me staying up in his morning time. But when I fell asleep or when he fell asleep, he would transfer to the laptop, and I remember we would fall asleep together, but it would be the laptop being right next to us and like I could see his face right there and he'd see my face and we would just fall asleep. Or if I fell asleep and he was still awake, he would just mute himself and then go on with his life. Like he would go to school and leave it on. Like leaving Skype on all the time was the easiest tool for us to feel normal as boyfriend and girlfriend because we were just able to kind of see each other and like it was almost like having someone there and just being like, hey. It was just easy to like keep connected that way. But yeah, we kept up our digital relationship for 3 years after I visited, and of course I visited many times after that. I would visit twice a year, one time in the Christmas break. In Australia, our Christmas break is like your guys' summer break, so it goes for 3 months. So I would tend to come here for like 2 or 3 months at a time. And then in the middle of my school year, which was America's summer break or whatever, I would take as long a break as I could. Usually only like 3 weeks. I feel like that's all that I could take at the time, and that's when I would see him as well. And then coming to 2014, he actually visited me in Australia for I think a month or maybe a little bit less than a month. And then the following year in 2015 to 16, he visited for Christmas and New Year's, and we went to the Gold Coast and had a mini vacation. Now this sounds terrible, but I don't actually remember when we got engaged. I know it was 2015 at some point, but specific dates I don't remember. But I do know the reason that he visited for so long in 2015 at the end with my family and everything was so that I could have Christmas with my family for the very last time, because we knew that in March of 2016 was when I was going to move away. So he flew back to America in February of 2016, and then me and my mom followed him 2 weeks after in March. Now moving to a different country, I don't think I fully comprehended how huge that was. My whole life that I had in my bedroom, I had to go through it. I threw out half of my stuff and the other half of my stuff I put into suitcases. So my entire life I brought to America in 6 suitcases. So when me and my mom were flying to Florida in March, I had 2 suitcases. She had a suitcase for herself and another suitcase that was just filled with some of the things that I had from my room. And then my wedding dress, which was in this huge bag that was just not ideal to be carrying around LAX with 4 suitcases. Like, it was a nightmare. And then closer to the wedding in April, I had my dad, my sister, and my aunt also come for the wedding, and they each had a suitcase of mine. So all three of them had 2 suitcases each, and we're doing this trip for the first time. So I am eternally grateful for all of my family members who helped with all that. And then my husband, being 19 at that point and I was 21, he was still living in his childhood bedroom. So I had 6 suitcases worth of my crap in his room, plus the 2 of us in there. So like, it was a lot going on. But we made it work. Everybody came for the wedding. The wedding was April 30th, 2016. We had a really great wedding. It was more like a party to me than a wedding. Like, I've actually never been to a wedding. I went to one when I was younger, and I imagined it to be, I don't know, different than it was, but mine was just like a straight up party. People were drunk, we had bangers, like it went off. It was super fun. It was in the middle of a garden, so in the nighttime with the fairy lights and like the jungle leaves everywhere, like it was a super cool vibe. So my wedding was really special, and then my wedding gift from my husband was this tiny little piece of paper. I'll see if I can put the picture here somewhere because the photographer took a picture of it. It was a coupon that had a creepy little drawing on it from my husband saying, "This coupon will get you 1 free Shih Tzu." So Daisy was my wedding present from my husband. 2 weeks after my wedding, we went to a Denny's. And we actually got her from a chick off Craigslist or something. Her dog had accidentally had puppies, and that's where Daisy came from. It was this tiny little fluffy jelly bean wrapped in a purple pea pad, and it was, I don't want to say the best day of my life because my wedding was supposed to be that day, but second best day of my life. But yeah, we got Daisy. We lived in his childhood bedroom for 5 months until my paperwork went through and I was able to work. You guys know I got a job with Macy's for 3 weeks. It was the worst job that I've ever had, and I left as soon as I could. But as soon as I got the job at Nordstrom, we moved out. We got our own apartment. We had our first Christmas as just us as a family. And me sitting here now in this beautiful apartment, and all the friends that I've made in America, and the marriage that I've had for almost 4 years now. If I weren't consciously thinking about it, I don't remember the years that we had apart. Like, it seems so bizarre to me that we had to live like that for so long. For five and a half years we lived apart. Like, that is insane, but at the same time it seems completely normal for us. It's our story. I will say, for all the downfalls that a long distance relationship comes with, I think the best, or my favorite part of ours, was that because we did everything through Facebook, I have every single message that we ever sent right up to the beginning. So him asking me out, him messaging me when I visited for the first time, like everything. We have so many pictures, like we have our entire history on record, and I couldn't be more grateful for that. It's just the cutest thing to look at. I mean, the messages now make me want to vomit. If you can imagine someone flirting constantly in a 14/17-year-old way, like, it will make you want to hurl. But it is really cool to have, and I think it would be cool to show our kids when we have kids one day. I don't know, it's just kind of like an upside to the whole situation. But yeah, that is my whole story, you guys. I apologize if it was all over the place. I apologize if it was super duper long. That's another reason I was afraid to make this video, because I just knew that I was going to never stop talking. It's because I swear I have a squirrel in my brain and I'm like, this thing, that thing, like it's completely out of order. But I hope this was entertaining. I hope you enjoyed my story. If you're in a long distance relationship, I hope my story gave you some positive reinforcement on your relationship. If you could take any tips like the Skype or anything. If you have any questions at all, please leave them down below, because I'm more than happy to help anyone, including having a wedding visa for the USA. My husband and I did that all by ourselves. We didn't get a lawyer. We didn't have any adults helping us. We figured it out all on our own. So if you have any questions about any of that, or long distance relationships, or literally anything, I'm happy to help with anything that I can. Just leave it down below. And also, as always, if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. You have no idea how much I appreciate it, and it helps me. And also subscribe if you aren't already, and hit the little bell thing so you actually get notified when I post. Otherwise, it's going to be like you didn't even subscribe and you're going to be like, what, where is she? So you kind of need to hit the bell thing. And I'm going to stop talking now, because I've been talking for a really long time. I swear I don't talk this much in real life. Have an amazing week. I love you so much, and bye.